Welcome, everyone. This is Trey Jadlow. It's the 12th of December already, 2016. I'm here with, what is this? Is this number 4, Mark?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay, this is our 4th round. My friend Mark has requested once again that we get together. He has come across some apparently new information that will successfully rebut my argument for the existence of God. And so he asked for an audience probably early last week, and I'm very busy with work. And so we tentatively planned for today, and so we were able to fulfill that. So here we are. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you, Trey, for setting this up, as always, and thank you for finding time in your schedule to talk to me. I have fun with this. I constantly have fun doing this with you, and I hope you're not getting tired of it.
No, I love it.
So it's not quite that I came across new information, really. It's that I was watching more of things that you have done in the past, and then I just thought of something that the other people you've talked to may not have expressed the way I might have.
Okay.
And so I'm going to have to apologize in advance if you've actually addressed this exact argument before, because I tried to do my due diligence, but there's no way that I can check every hour of video you've done. So that may have been expressed before in the exact same way, and I hope not.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so this really is about you. So I think for posterity and for anyone watching, it might be good for you to just give, kind of start with what is your contingency argument, and then we can get into more specifics, and then we'll get to a point where I think I want to step in and say I don't agree with that. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's kind of redundant, same old thing, but I always have to have the first two presuppositions or foundations must be epistemological assumptions that we make, and that is the law of non-contradiction or rational coherence and the basic reliability of sense perception. If we don't have those, we have no one making the inquiry, and we have no matrix or ability to do induction and deduction in order to come to a conclusion. So you've always granted those, everybody always has. And so from those two premises, I know that experientially, sensorially, I know that I exist, and I know that I am not self-existent, and I know that that which is not self-existent or contingent in its nature cannot be self-existent by definition, and therefore there must be something that has the attribute of self-existent in order for me to be.
Okay, great. Okay, so why do you get to the point that necessitates a God? Like take it like the one or two extra steps.
I already gave you this. There are no extra steps there. Self-existence. God is self-existence. He is existence in and of himself.
Well, right. I mean, you said you know you're not self-existence, and then that's not the same as saying that you know God is self-existence, right? There's a step there in the middle that you kind of have glossed over just then.
I'm not sure I understand. Self-existent, contingent existence cannot be by way of law of non-contradiction. It cannot be and not be at the same time in the same relationship.
Sure.
So if I happened at some time, there must be somewhere some a being that has the capacity of self-existence in order.
Okay, so you know that, for instance, the universe is not that being, or there aren't other options. Like just like lay out some of that stuff, just like some more detail.
Okay, so we know that the universe is subject to change. That which is self-existent cannot be subject to change, because if it were subject to the change, it's subject to whatever affects the change to it.
Okay.
Or affects it.
Okay.
And so
that's good. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but for this, I'm going to grant that. So I agree with that. I'm saying I agree with that for now.
Sure,
and I may. Sure, okay. So by that reasoning, we know the universe isn't self-existent because it changes. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So then that means there's something else that is, and it has to be what? What about it? Like what properties does it have to have then?
Well, it has to be non-corporeal as well, because corporeality is limited by space.
Okay,
it's contingent by definition.
And space is, as we know, contained in the universe, so it can't be in space, right? Okay, I agree with that. I mean, it fits with your model. So,
okay.
What else?
So it has to be non-corporeal, unchanging.
Unchanging. Okay, unchanging is an important one, and that one is the most confusing. And I do want to talk about that kind of in detail. That's kind of where my argument comes from.
Okay. Well, and it can't have accidental properties to use Aristotelian terminology, it can't be. It can't have. It cannot have properties that are not essential to its nature, because if you have accidental properties, that again constitutes contingency, because you can have them or you cannot have them. Those properties are not necessary. Necessary being by definition must be necessary. It can't be.
So I've heard you use the phrases like pure being or pure act, which
That's right.
Okay, those are just fancier ways of summing up everything you just said, I think.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so to summarize real quick, you're contingent, everything around us is contingent. That requires, every contingent existence requires some non-contingent existence to initiate it or create it or something. I don't know what word you prefer to use.
Sustain it. I mean,
Sustain it.
If self-existence were to not exert power upon me, I wouldn't fall apart. I would cease to exist.
I have no idea how you came to that, but for now, I'll grant it. That's fine. Okay, so the universe cannot be that self-existent thing because it changes, and you think self-existent things can't change.
Yeah, we're talking about the contingent universe again. Right. Be careful with our terminology there, because if you want to define universe as all that there is, well, obviously the self-existent.
Okay, I'll just use the phrase "our universe," which is like space-time as we experience it, which is obviously contingent. Okay, so if you want a contingent universe, that's fine too. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to be able to be careful communicating, because it gets kind of confusing sometimes.
I appreciate that. That's good. So the contingent universe, or our universe, is not self-existent, so it's got to be something else. And that being has the properties of pure being, pure act, unchanging, among maybe some others that we left out. Mm-hmm. Okay, does that being interact with the universe? The contingent universe, rather?
Well, it created it, so I would imagine, remember what I said, if it were to remove
sure. But like, okay, so then it's, if at any, okay, so I'm going to say time, but that's not, I understand that's not an accurate or perfect use of the word time, because time doesn't exist out of the universe. But if there were ever a time or instant where that being wasn't exerting that influence, the universe would cease to exist?
Yes.
Okay. So in addition to that, do you think that God can like directly intervene in what happens like in the contingent universe? Like if that God wanted to, could it take this little rag thing and make it like float or something? I mean, I'm not trying to trick you with that. It's like
to me it's so trivial and obvious. I would think you'd say, okay, of course. Why would you
like that? Another way of phrasing this might be: do you think like the miracles and direct intervention described in the Bible, for instance, are true?
Oh yes, of course. Okay, that's the whole point of a miracle is conspicuous by its absence. So the very fact that there are miracles, that's the whole point of them. They could not happen in the natural universe, which is just the way God normally does things.
Okay.
And that's the whole point, is to say that the message of the messenger is different than any other message that has been given.
Okay. So, all right. I think that all makes sense. So essentially, God can, as he did in the Bible, directly speak to people, directly influence the contingent universe and the things and beings in it, can alter physics or whatever, however you want to phrase it. He can do that.
Sure.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So where I want to get at, and I'm not trying to trick you here, because this is fascinating stuff to me, but this is getting to where my argument is going to actually come into play. How do we rectify the fact that this being is unchanging with the fact that he can interact with a changing universe?
Well, he can interact as one who affects but is not affected. I think when we talk about this, that both he's pure act, but he cannot be such as we understand something as act and patient. In other words, that the example I always use is, when you walk on the beach and you make footprints in the sand, you're affecting the sand, but the sand is affecting you. You have dimples in your feet from walking in the sand. But God is not. So we're both act and patient in everything that we do. But God is pure act, so he is affecting, but he's not affected. Otherwise, he would be contingent.
Okay. So that means, if I want to follow that through, would have to mean that if he's unchanging, he's not patient to what happens, right? So he essentially, there's no difference in God. Like, I've heard you had this exact argument before in discussion before. So there's no difference with God before he created Adam and after he created Adam. Like, God is the exact same, even though Adam didn't exist and then did exist. God is the exact same.
Right.
Okay, but to God's perspective, it's not. Time doesn't work that way. I understand that. It's not like there's a before and after. It's just okay.
Right.
So that would mean, from our perspective, God has to be directly interacting with, and you would say sustaining existence, right? All moments of existence simultaneously to Him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I should have asked before we started. Is there a way for me to share the screen? Because I drew some pictures. Because I really think.
Yes.
Okay.
In the upper left,
Uh-huh.
if you move your cursor to the left, that green arrow.
It's the one labeled screen share, isn't it?
That's it. And you click on that, and it should show your desktop. Hopefully, you don't have too many windows up there, and you can see whichever one you want to do, and click on that one.
All right.
And that will enable you to share it.
Okay. All right. Let me see here. My entire screen. I could just do entire screen is the way to go, right?
Yes, I think so. I haven't done it that much myself.
All right. So can you see my screen then?
No. Oh, hold on. Let me white box it. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Is that what's showing in the? Hold on a second. Let me make sure that's what's showing on. Okay. Cool. It's working. All right. So then, you're still there, right?
Yes,
Okay. Great. So you can see my screen?
I can.
Okay. So essentially, you're gonna have to discuss this thing that you've discussed and don't like, but we'll have to hash it out. This is my picture that I drew of my attempt to make sense of what we just described, right?
Okay.
Where I'll just go through it step by step, and you can object to it, or we can hash it out, however you want. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So the top array of boxes is just essentially a representation of the universe, and I have it written here. It's the universe as viewed externally, even though that word doesn't really apply. Externally by God, it's shown as a continuous series of individual moments that occur from our perspective in the universe sequentially, but from God's perspective, all at the same time. They look like this, and I call this the array of moments. That's just how I drew it out. This is God, and which is my feeble human brain's representation of God is the circle. And each of these red lines represents God's perception or interaction or influence, or whatever you want to call it, seeping into every moment of time in the universe, either influencing it directly or just sustaining its existence. And God has to be able to perceive and interact with every moment at the same time, eternally, for Him to be considered unchanging. Because if at any time this picture changes, then God has changed, right?
Right.
Okay, so you agree with this picture? You do? Okay, interesting. So I've heard you describe before, when someone has brought this up, that you would call it, or you've said that time is an illusion or something. That's what you said, right? Time
is an illusion?
Yeah. Or change is an illusion, rather, I think you've said.
Oh, well, no. If you want to say that, that's one of the objections I've had to my opponent, where they said something, and I said change is an illusion. Oh, they want to hold the B-time theory. I can't even remember. I'm really tired.
Okay, no, it's fine. I don't mean to hold you to stuff. I just thought that's something you might have said, so I kind of had it ready.
No, as an objection. In other words, people want to say that they want to say that there's no such thing as change. They hold to a B theory of time, and everything is just really not really. There really is no change. So I say, you're going to say that change is illusion, and
okay.
They say, yeah, and I say, well, go out and walk in front of a truck and show me if that change is real or not.
Okay.
Speeding truck.
We can talk about that some other time. I don't agree with you there, but it doesn't really matter if you agree with this picture, as far as our feeble brains can represent this type of thing. The thing is, and here's really the crux of my argument, if you are going to allow that this picture is, consistent with your understanding of God, and if you're going to allow that this picture fulfills the requirements of unchanging, then this picture also fulfills the requirements of unchanging.
How so? Because you've only got contingency in the picture.
I'm not sure why that's relevant.
What? The whole point is you can't have contingency without a deity.
The thing is, it's only contingency if the other picture is true. In this picture, this is self-existent.
Is it changing?
Okay. You answer me. Is this changing?
Yes, that has both act and potency within it.
Okay, so this is the which one is this?
That one there's act you're pointing at right now.
Okay.
Go up a little bit and there's potency.
Okay, cool. Why? Okay, so and this picture counts as unchanging, yes?
Well, there's change within that picture.
Where? How? How can there be change in this picture? If this picture changes, then God changes.
I don't understand how. God is over time, but he is not bound by time.
But if he ever, I understand that. But if he ever, like, let's say, like, there was another row of boxes that popped up here, right? And then he suddenly started perceiving that one, then that's a different, then God is then different, because there was a time where he was not perceiving these new boxes, and now there's a time where he is perceiving these new boxes, right?
No, from our perspective, yes. But
no,
not
from this perspective, our perspective is in these boxes. From this perspective, which is my attempt to be outside of our perspective, which may be flawed, but whatever. If any of these red lines ever change, then God has changed. Is that not true?
No, it's not true. So if you're saying that universe, all right, so we're in just one of those boxes up at the top, right?
No. Sorry. If I really should have spent more time to hash this out. We are in all of these boxes, or rather, the entire universe.
We're experiencing it.
Yes, we're experiencing it. We go from one box to the next and can't perceive anything outside of these boxes. Inside this box is the entire universe, all matter and energy that is in the contingent universe, as you would call it. It's just, these are just steps in time. So you could call these different seconds. You could call these different Planck times, whatever. Does that answer your question for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have something else too?
No. I mean,
okay. But so then do you not agree that if these red lines ever change, that God is then changing?
No, because the lines are contingent.
The lines are contingent.
Yes, they are instances of potency or potential.
But okay. So if this picture holds, right? Then okay. First, let's do a weird experiment, a weird thought experiment. Let's say the universe has exactly 7 discrete moments, which is obviously not how the universe works, but we could use the number 10 to the 80th, whatever. It doesn't matter what number we use. So let's pick 7 because that's what I drew. The universe is only ever going to consist of 7 distinct moments, okay? And we're in moment 5. Who cares? Then this picture is true. This is an accurate, or as far as it can be, this comports exactly with the understanding you would have of God. He influences directly all of these 7 moments, and these represent all of time and contingent existence. Okay?
As we understand it, yeah.
As we can understand it, right? If God ever, so in that case, God is defined as interacting with this universe at these 7 points. And if we drew another box and there was an 8th one, God would then be different because now he would be interacting with 8 moments instead of 7.
No, because he's not defined by the contingency that he creates. That's the whole point. That's what I said. He's pure act. He's not potency. So that extra box that comes up there is another instance of potential. God is not potential. Is not part of his being.
But if there was ever an instance where this holds, right, and then that 8th box or whatever comes up, then the situation is different. God is now influencing more moments than before. And how can something unchanging?
But do you understand you're imposing your view of time upon God there?
No, my view of time is nothing like this picture. My view of time exists in these boxes. This is completely unrelated to my view of time.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that there's two instances of time. There's time that we experience, and there's time that God experiences.
My whole point is that your argument requires that there must be some other, or I don't know, like your argument requires that this picture cannot change. Mine doesn't. I don't care. But you, by saying that God has to be unchanging, the extension of that is that this picture can never change. Otherwise,
you just said it changed 7 times yourself.
No.
What difference does it make if you have 7 or 70 million? It makes absolutely no difference. You're saying there are instances happening, and you're adding one on adds nothing to the argument.
Well, I mean, it changes the picture. So You're right. You're exactly right. The number doesn't matter. That's a good point. Okay, but let's just
And the
say.
fact that you want to add another one on just means that you drew another one. So what?
So that means
Potency, that's the
I
thing.
mean
We got
that would be the case where, imagine the case where God drew another one. That's what I'm saying, not me. But like, if this is the entire universe, right? These dots don't exist. This is the entire universe, and this is the end. This is Judgment Day. It's at the end of this box, right?
Okay.
If God decided to extend Judgment Day, you know, and have another moment or whatever, that would change this picture. That would be a change in God, because then he would be influencing with a whole other moment of the universe.
Why wasn't it a change when he did the second box?
Because this picture holds. This is the picture, right? This is the picture. God decided these are going to be the 7 moments. That's it, right?
Supposing changing God, he changes his mind.
No, your model of changing God is what we're talking about here. It's not mine. I'm just.
Well, no, but you have to assume some kind of paradigm in order to critique, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming yours.
Okay, well that's not mine. Mine is not where God makes 7 instances of time, and then all of a sudden, oh wait a minute, I think that I'll do another one. God, there is no predication for God ad intra as he is in and of himself.
Right.
That's
okay.
There's no potency. There's no change within him. That's something that he creates.
That's exactly the point. And as a consequence of that, the universe, the entire array of all moments in the universe, also must be unchanging. This could go on to negative.
Well, then they're perfect self-existence.
What are?
Everything is perfect self-existence.
No, these could still be contingent on God. I mean, he could.
Well, then they change, and change is nothing.
I mean, so does God perceive that this changes from his perspective or not?
Well, again, you're trying to take your view of looking at time as succession, predication, being and becoming, and imposing that on God ad intra. You can't do that.
I'm trying to.
I'm not saying it's something that you can completely comprehend. I can't completely comprehend it, but it's not something that's rationally coherent what you're putting forth, because you're trying to make him contingent and then define him as if I say.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So we should. I don't know. I don't want to bore the audience, but I think you've backed yourself into a contradiction here that you really can't escape.
I don't even feel challenged yet.
I know, and that's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to help you see where the problem in this is. Hold on a second. I'm just going to check and see if we even have any viewers. Oh, we have 4. Oh, hold on, wait. I want to see what Bert Poole said.
Oh, did he write something? Get some pointers from Bert. Here, let me take out the white box.
That was great. Bert's a good guy. Anyway.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. Let's back this up. We're going to try and hash this out one more time, and if it fails completely, if I fail completely to do my job of making this clear to you at all, then we can talk about something more fun. But okay. Let's imagine this represents the entire universe. Okay, hold on, wait. Back up. First question. If what God perceives, the image God perceives of reality, of total reality, right? This is the whole universe, not the contingent universe, but the whole universe. Mm-hmm. If the picture of that, right? So basically this picture, but drawn a different way that you might approve of or something, okay? The whole picture of the universe and everything outside of it, including God, right? If God's perception of this picture ever changes, then is God unchanging still, or is he changing?
He is unchanging.
If this picture changes, God still counts as unchanging.
What is it about the first creation of the first universe that is different from the 8th one? I don't understand that.
I'm sorry. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Sorry, but this first question. Let's say, for the sake of argument, we find a picture, you and me. We draw one together that's, tries to do what this one does, but we both agree on it. Okay, mm-hmm. and it represents perfectly our understanding of God and how he sees the universe and everything, the whole universe, not just the contingent universe, but everything. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've drawn a perfectly accurate map. If what that map represents changes, does God count as changing or unchanging at that point?
Ad intra, he is unchanging. Like I said, just like it was with the first one. It doesn't matter. You're adding something onto it. Does nothing.
Okay. I think I see what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying that by definition, if we have an accurate map, right, it can never change because God is unchanging. Is that right?
I'm not sure. Are you saying from God's perspective? I mean, all I can see from you, Mark, right now is what you're saying is that God should be able to change his mind. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm like,
Uh,
Why would you do that?
that's kind of like a corollary, but I guess that would help. So do you think he can change his mind or no?
Well, no. For someone to change their mind means that they were fallible in something they knew, and upon more information, they learned something. And Richard Dawkins once said that I can change my mind, God can't. Therefore, I'm better than God. But changing your mind is an implication of fallibility. We
Right. Okay.
mistake something. We think, oh, I shouldn't do that. I
I,
should do.
th- I
You're
think
not
I asked
omniscient.
I think I asked a dumb question because if I asked you if God changes his mind, but you said he's unchanging, so obviously he can't change anything. So sorry,
Yeah.
that was a dumb question. Um, but okay, so what I'm trying to get at, the real point, right? If we determine an accurate map, this is our map, and if you
Mhm.
and I agree on a map, right? If any of the facts represented by that map, anything, any of the lines or the God or the whatever boxes or whatever, if any of that changes, then that would violate the principle of God being unchanging. Is that accurate?
Um, Actually, no, not even so. I mean, the very fact that you're predicating about that yourself is necessarily corollary to our dependent existence.
Sort of, but I account for that in this picture. Like, okay, so we can go back to the picture, I guess. So let's pause on that. I'll let you finish that thought. Hold on to that.
I'm done.
Okay. Oh, okay, sure. Um, this box represents every moment or these boxes, this array of moments represents every moment in the entire universe. Okay. So what you're talking about, my being able to predicate and stuff, is built into this, right? So let's
Right.
say this is right now, and I'm predicating about it. And
Mhm.
that means that means just the picture of me is changing. Is like the neurons in my brain are firing. Here's a neuron
Right,
firing.
right,
Here's a new
right.
one. Here's a new one. Right.
That's
That's
right.
built into this. I understand that that's different from what God perceived. I understand that. That's built into the
Okay.
picture. Right.
Okay.
That's fine. The point is, this picture can never change. Otherwise, that would violate the principle of God being unchanging.
Um,
So I mean, I can change because I'm changing in these boxes, right? This is like a slideshow. Like, there's me not thinking. Here's me not thinking. Oh, I'm starting to think, and then here's me clicking the mouse, right?
any change that you attribute to God
Hmm.
is impossible.
Okay, I get it.
Otherwise,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, then he wouldn't be ase or self-existent.
Okay, all right. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with granting that. But that means the necessary extension of that is that this picture cannot change either.
Um, the picture
Because if
itself, the
if
picture is a predication, though. You need to understand that it's not
right,
God himself.
right, I
Okay,
get that. But this is
so
this is our model of how God is influencing things, or how God constantly, without changing, influences
yeah, and you
things. Right.
realize that we cannot have a complete understanding of that because it's incommunicable, right?
Right. Okay. Well, I was hoping you wouldn't go there because
That's
as soon as you say something like that, that's like admitting you don't have a rational basis for it, and I don't want you to do that.
oh no, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying my argument always must end in mystery because I'm being rational, because incommunicability is necessary corollary to self-existence. It only makes sense because if God is pure act, he cannot share it because the sharing in and of itself would be a potential.
Okay. All right.
So there's got to be mystery. But see, here's the thing. You guys
Uh-huh.
start with contradiction at the base. I
What's
start
that?
with rational coherence. And in the end, I've got to come to mystery because I can't get there. But I want to push it as far as I can. I want to use my mind. I want to go as far as I possibly can go and be
Okay.
thoughtful about it. But I'm not going to start at the beginning with irrationality. That's what atheists do.
I'm just exposing that your starting point and your ending point are completely self-defeating. It's a completely self-contradictory argument.
Okay.
Okay. So okay, God is unchanging. No part of God can change. That means none of these influence lines can change, right? Because these are God. God is his ability to perceive and interact. He's perfect interaction, perfect perception with the universe. That means these lines can never change, right? He is eternally interacting with this moment, and also this moment, and also this moment, and
Yes,
also every moment.
but he's not moving like we move. That's the
Correct.
thing.
He's not moving. That's right. So this picture, that means you just said exactly what I needed you to say, right? That's what I wanted you to say. He's not
Okay.
moving. That means this picture cannot change because he is constantly doing all of these things for all time. From our perspective, for all time. For him, just unchangingly. That means these lines are always here. This picture is always as it is. It can never change. Otherwise, God changed.
But you're trying to impose a potential view of what is time for you, Mark?
Time
We'll
is,
talk about.
is, is passing from one of these boxes to the next.
Okay, so and it's done by material moving, right?
Yes, that's exactly correct. Which is
Okay,
completely different from these. These don't invoke time at all. These lines are outside of time. They're outside these boxes.
um, Well, then
I'm
those, then the succession of those time. I'm drawing out like you can see me doing it.
okay.
So the movement between those times there is
It's perceived by us, but to God, it all looks like exactly the same moment, or not moment, but some
well,
analogical word.
you have to use that word moment. That's the
Right.
problem.
Yeah. Right. So, but some analogical word that I can't come up with or phrase to you, but to God, all of this happens at the same time or concurrently. Not in time, but
But
concurrently,
again,
forever.
we cannot get away from, because we are potential in our nature. We cannot get away from predication, from making statements about passing of
Okay,
moments. We just
that's
can't
fine.
do it.
That's fine. That we can use more general words. This
I don't think you
is
can.
eternally the case. Eternally the case that God is perceiving this moment and this moment. It is eternally the case that He perceives both of these and all the others and every other moment in the entire universe. It is
But not
eternally true.
but not in a potential way.
That's
But
fine.
we
That's fine.
cannot think outside of potentiality. That's
That's
not
fine.
possible for us.
That's fine. Right. Well, I mean, I think this is kind of an indication that we can, because at least we're talking about this. But it's admittedly
We can
flawed.
speak of it. We can speak it by way of analogy, but we can't speak of
Sure.
it in perfection.
The point. The point. I've said this a few times. My main point here, if I can phrase it properly without failing, if God exists in this state eternally, if this is eternal, right, then that means this moment must be here eternally, and this moment must be here eternally, and this moment too, right? Because if this were to not be here eternally, then we would go from the case where God does have this line to the case where God does not have this line. And that can't be true. This moment always has to be in this picture, as drawn. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
I'm trying to
Okay.
figure out what you mean. I mean,
So my point is,
eternally. You're describing eternally in times
then let me say unchangingly. How about that?
unchangingly from God's perspective. Yes,
Right. Okay. Fine. So that means from God's
because
perspective.
He's not defined by succession of events.
I get that. That's exactly right.
So really obvious to me.
No, good, Trey. We're doing great. This is exactly. I don't disagree with anything. I agree with that. Perfect. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand how it fits in your model, and I'm fine with that. Okay.
Okay.
So that means, from God's perspective, you said, that means there is a perspective from which these moments exist unchangingly. There has to be. That's God's perspective. But
I can't predicate how things work in God's mind.
that's fine. But you are allowing for a perspective where these moments exist unchangingly. That's the same thing as the universe existing unchangingly.
No. You're describing God's experience of these universes or these time moments from your perspective and trying to impose that. This is the number one thing that people do, and try to impose your view of time upon God.
No, I'm not, because my view of time is that I move from one box to the next, and I never get out of these boxes. God, I'm granting immediately that God has a completely different perception of time than me. I know that.
Right. Is his perception of time, though, include predication?
No, it doesn't. That's fine.
All right, can you think, in your mind, can you make a simple thought?
I don't.
You can't. You cannot do it. You do not have the capacity. You must every movement you have in your mind is movement, and it's predicating.
Okay. I get what you're saying. That's fine. That all you're saying though, like I'm fine with it. Like we've been over that. That's fine. Like it fits your model, and it fits this model more importantly. That means that all of this happens unchangingly. That's exactly the point I want to get at.
From our perspective.
Yeah, and from God's perspective necessarily.
No.
What? What?
No,
you said that already.
It's not
Previously
unchanging.
said from God's perspective, this is an unchanging image. Like what?
Well, yeah, he's not experiencing succession of changing, but it's not unchanging the way that we experience unchanging, where we just sit still and are static.
Right. No, I get it, because even when we're sitting still and we're static, we're still metabolizing and breathing, and atoms are doing things. God has no atoms. There's no motion. God is unchanging completely. I get that. That's cool. The necessary consequence of that thing I already agree with you on over and over, is this picture, which is unchanging. That's the necessary consequence.
Okay, I don't see the compelling point.
The point is that if you're willing to grant that from God's perspective, or any perspective, including God's, that this can exist unchangingly, then so can this. Because it's the same perspective. just minus the God. And
It's
if
without aseity, right?
the God or the universe would be a deity. The universe is in this drawing, it's self-existent. Because here's the thing. Your reason for not believing the universe is self-existent is that it changes.
Right.
But we've already granted that change from our perspective is not the only perspective, because from a perspective that you've already granted, the universe is literally unchanging.
Okay. Well, I think what happened is you came up with a really sharp idea that was really good in your mind, but maybe when you express it, it's not so compelling.
What's your defense though? You haven't really rebutted it.
You can't have change without self-existence, without being.
The point.
You can't have becoming without being.
This doesn't change. That's the entire point. This doesn't change. This is.
But from whose perspective? Who's perceiving it?
The universe's perspective.
Okay, so then you basically conceded my argument.
Can you explain that sentence?
Well, you're saying the universe has this consciousness of unchanged.
No. Oh yes,
that guides the changingness.
Okay. You're saying that because I said from the perspective of the universe, right? Just to be clear.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't really mean that the universe is perceiving in that sense. I mean, just like if that perspective was possible in one case, then that same perspective is possible in another case.
No, it's maybe not, because here you've got a perceiver that is self-existent, and the other one you have no perceiver. You just have a bunch of little perceiver dots. Why does the existence of a perceiver
change things?
Huh?
Or why does the existence of a perceiver alter how we understand the picture?
Because you've got two views of perception.
You are asserting that this can be true, and then if we get rid of the perceiver, this can't be true. But I have no idea why that would be the case.
Okay, so you're the little boxes down there, and you're saying I perceive this.
Yeah,
okay.
But the thing is, that's the exact same thing I'm doing here. Whatever you're about to say about what I do is true here too, because it's just me perceiving.
That's exactly right. Only in that one we have somebody self-existent perceiving.
The universe, why do we need someone perceiving? Because in this case, we have the universe self-existent, not perceiving, but I can still perceive in these.
Well, there's no ontology of self-existence.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
In the picture we have now, there is no ontological status being that is self-existent.
The universe is the self-existent being.
Okay, so you're saying there's two types of existence in this picture we're looking at right now.
I guess so. I guess in this case there would be like three.
No, there's two.
I would say there's
there could be three, and there's contingency there.
Oh, I mean this. So hold on. Okay, I think we're done with the picture, so you can take it back because I need to look up some of these terms because I'm like rusty on it. How do I stop sharing?
I got it. Well, I don't know.
Okay, crap.
Is there a thing up?
Can I not? Did I do it?
You're back.
I'm the best. All right.
Okay. I can't. Now I got to unbite white box myself. There we go.
Okay. Satiety. Hold on. Let me just look that up. A being exists in and of itself. Why is there no this? I just drew a thing where the universe exists in and of itself. That's a satiety.
Okay. So again, this is the same argument that people come over and over. All right. If you're going to say that the universe is self-existent and contingent, you've got to make some kind of distinction of being, because something, the law of identity says that something cannot be in what it is not as well.
Sorry, so you said if something is what and what? Say the first 10 words again.
I completely forgot what I said.
I'm sorry. Okay, never mind.
Well, the problem is that you're saying if the universe is self-existent, you've got two types of being there. You've got a being that is, I said the law of identity. That's what I said. The law of identity says basically something is what it is and it's not something else. So if you want to say the universe is self-existent, you can't at the same time in the same relationship say it's also dependent.
I'm saying the things inside the universe, like you and me, are dependent.
Okay.
And the universe
so there's an ontological distinction between outside and inside, right? There's different types of being.
So I don't necessarily know what you mean by that language, and I'm being honest.
No, I appreciate that. Let me try to explain it.
Hold on. Well, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
By outside and inside, I guess I would agree at the first level, but I'm not saying that there maybe even is an outside the universe. It's like...
Okay, then how do you come up with the self-existent? Tell me about that.
It's like the self-existent part would be like... So what you would be describing when you said inside and outside, it's like if I have a fenced house, right? And then there's still an outside of the fence, maybe, right? But in my case, there might not be an outside the fence. There might just be the house and the yard and the fence. And the fence is the self-existent part, nothing outside of the fence.
Okay, but the fence can't be corporeal. I mean, that's an analogy. That's fine.
Yeah, right. But we have no idea if the edge of the universe is corporeal. Like, no one even knows what that even.
Well, remember, corporealism is marked by contingency because it's limited by space.
Well, so that's only if you're operating under your same conclusions, right? But I don't know that the universe is, if like under. We walked from your starting premises, exposed the contradiction in your own conclusions, and now we can't apply those own conclusions here because it might be that space itself isn't contingent. I don't know. The universe may have had to exist and is self-existent.
What? What was that you said?
The universe may have had to exist as it does. It might be self-existent and always, in a sense, exists like it does, just like in the picture of God.
Then it's pure change, then, right? It's in effect without a cause.
No, because the array of moments never changes, but our perception from within the array of moments does change. But the array is timeless.
So change is an illusion.
Yeah, exactly correct. But change is an illusion.
Go outside and find a speeding truck and walk in front of it and tell me how that non-change stuff works.
But okay, so I do
have to be consistent. That's the thing.
I am consistent because I don't want to do that, and that's the. So if you ask me the reason,
okay, well, stop being a wimp and say I believe, and jump off the top of the building.
It's not even wimpy. Okay. Let's address this. Let's address this exact. Your objection to the whole change is an illusion. Okay. I perceive that I like being alive, right? Mm-hmm. And under my model. It's not even my model. Tons of people have talked about it. Under this model, where we have the array of moments, right? There will be a moment where I go from being alive to being dead. And from my perspective, that will be the end of my perception, the end of my life.
Right. Which is change, right?
Right. But I can believe that I'm passing through the array of moments and also believe that I can't go backwards in the array of moments and also believe that I like being alive. Mm-hmm. If you add those three ingredients together, it's completely internally consistent that I don't want to kill myself.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about there not being a change, and I'm challenging you to do something.
I just addressed that. The thing is, from my perspective, there is change, even if the array of moments exists forever. There could be, right? That's okay. The same thing under the God picture. The thing he perceives, the array, exists forever. But from our perspective, there's change. The same reason I don't kill myself if there's a God.
Okay, but you agree then that walking out in front of a truck will result in your death?
It will. Yes. Yes, they're definitely correct, but it could be.
So that change is really real, isn't it?
Yes, because like I already.
So if you're saying it's not change, would be special pleading, right?
No, I'm saying not at all. It's completely.
It's very convenient for you to do this.
It's completely consistent with the model that we're talking about. If I pass from a moment, if we're playing the slideshow,
it's not logically consistent.
It's the exact same picture I do with God. What are you talking about?
What are you talking
about? No. This specific
types of being.
This specific objection, right? Under the picture I drew of God, looking at our slideshow, the change is no less real or imaginary. It's the exact same. There's a slideshow, and in one slide I'm alive, and in one I'm dead. Why don't I just go kill myself because the change is fake? It's the exact same problem.
Right.
Yes, okay. So if the problem applies in my model, it also applies in yours. And if it doesn't apply in yours, it doesn't apply in mine. We're in the same boat.
Yes, where do you come up with your ase being? Where is that? You're basically saying my argument, the same thing. You just don't like God.
Essentially, yeah. The thing is,
then you've considered the argument, my friend.
No, I'm saying my argument comports with the starting assumptions that you gave just as well as the God one, and therefore you're not justified.
You defined it the exact same way I do too. Welcome to the club.
I drew a picture with no God in it.
You drew a picture that you said implied, we couldn't see it, but you said it implied that there are two different ontologies. There's a self-existent ontology, there's a contingent ontology. You didn't draw it, but you said it was there.
The array of moments is a C, self-existent, right? And from our perspective, we move from...
Ase does not imply change.
I know. The array of moments never changes. It's just like with the God picture, Trey, right? If that, as I drew it with the sun...
Is that array, though, different in nature than the individual events?
Yeah, I think it would have to be.
Okay, then you just posited a God.
If you want to call that God, sure. I would say I posited something self-existent, but is that the only quality of God that you care about?
The only quality, well, it's the starting point, yes.
Okay, then I did,
because I want to be rationally coherent.
Because I posited self-existence and none of the other things that follow from the starting point. So I didn't posit your God. Maybe
So
something
you
you could call
you don't
God.
like my God because he's gonna burn you
No.
to hell if you're
First of all,
in your sin.
yes, I don't like your God if he exists. But
Okay.
saying I don't like it is not accurate. It's that I don't think you're justified in applying that extra piece of information to your model. Because you and I, from the same,
I'm the one who's pulling out a thorn to try to get you to admit, and you're admitting that you
well,
are saying there are two different types of ontologies here, and basically you do
yes.
concede the argument. You just don't
Oh,
like the
what
attributes of
argument?
my
The
God.
argument that something is self-existent? Yes,
Yes,
that's the conclusion of my argument. Right.
in differentiation to contingent existence.
Yes, but in the thing is, the model I proposed fits that exact sentence, but it doesn't involve a God, or at least your God.
Okay,
You
well,
could
no, no,
call it God.
wait a minute. You said it doesn't involve a God, at least your God. Now, which is it? It
The
doesn't
thing is,
involve a God, or it doesn't involve my God.
that depends exactly on how you want to define the word God when I say it doesn't involve a God.
Okay,
That's
so
what
I'm
I meant.
talking about a self-existent being who gives rise or existence to contingent being.
That's so I don't necessarily know what you mean by that, and I would love your clarification. That's like kind of like I don't know if this analogy works. I haven't thought it through. Uh, is the atom of iron that's in the center of this thing
Mhm.
contingent upon this thing's existence?
Is it dependent upon the existence of it? I don't know if you would say that it's contingent upon it. It makes up
Okay.
that that solid piece of material that you're holding,
Right.
and it
So
is
I mean,
contingent
it's like
because
so.
you just moved it.
Right. I did. Right. But by virtue of this existing, it has an iron thing, an iron atom in the center of it. Yeah.
It is made up of iron atoms,
Right.
some iron atoms.
Analogously, by virtue of existing, my self-existent array of moments would contain moments. So, I mean, in a sense, it's those things, those moments are contingent upon it, but it's not like it consciously wills them to be there. It just is.
Okay, but all that you're describing, though, there is contingent in nature, right? It's act and
Right.
potency, right?
It's what? So wait, act and I'm sorry. I'm so
All right.
sorry.
So when you talk about act, you're talking about something that has some sort of element to it that is unchanging. All right.
Okay.
So we see the
Why do you
continuity
call that
within a.
act? I mean, I get that's what the old philosophers called it. I don't really care what they did though. Why do you call it
What would
act?
you like me to say?
I don't
Just
know. It just seems like a
self-exist.
weird word. Yeah, sure.
It's like a potential and or being and becoming. It has this
Being
being
and
to it
becoming.
that's consistent. So
I
so
like
you
that a
look
lot
at.
better.
Okay, so it has being to it. In other
Hmm.
words, you can melt it or whatever, but if you hold it in your hand and you look at it from moment to moment, you can see there's consistency of the fingernail clippers, and you could say
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
it has act, but it also has potential because you could bend it, you could move it from one place to another, you could melt it, you
Okay.
could do all
I get
kinds of
that.
things. So
Granted.
we see this whole thing of act and potency,
Okay. Cool.
or being and becoming within the stuff that we experience,
Yes.
but it's defined because it did happen, and because it's defined by change. Its overall being is that which is potential or becoming.
Okay.
Uh,
But the array of
that's the,
moments could be unchanging eternally. It could just be self-existent and unchanging. Like the array of moments isn't this. If I could hold
does it change itself? Does it act upon itself to make itself dependent?
no, it doesn't act upon itself at all. It just exists. It self-exists, and the moments are reality and time as
If
you
it
and I perceive it.
self-exists, then you can't. There can only be one self-existent.
Yeah, it's the array of moments. The whole array.
Okay, so that's his name is Yahweh. Let me let you know.
Why? Because the array of moments didn't inspire the Bible or give us 10 commandments. It
Okay,
just
so you can see the
is.
argument then. You just don't like the Christian God.
The argument I concede. Okay, okay. I'm trying to think of a way to phrase the argument that I concede, not your argument. Don't be daft, but an argument, right? Uh, from your starting assumptions, we can get to the point that something has to be self-existent, and the whole point of this exercise is to show that I can come up with an alternate model that is self-existent by your own logical conclusions that
Mhm.
doesn't require God or any sort of
I can
Christian God.
posit God that's not your God, but that's positing not God. I mean, that
So
doesn't make any sense.
is it still God if there's no heaven? If there's Jesus wasn't the Son of God, right? If there's the Bible is made up, is it still God? Do you still want to call if you want to call just the self-existent array of moments God, fine, but you should probably admit to me that's different from Yahweh.
Okay, so no, I say that God is so much more than the
Right.
God of
Fine.
Aristotle.
I
So
say
much
he's
more.
none of that.
But okay, so you concede the point then. You concede that there's a creator who sustains all things.
No, it's just self-existent. I mean, that's kind of what I'm asking. Like, it's if I could hold the array of moments
Hmm.
like this, which I can't, obviously. But if I could hold it in my hand, the fact that there's something in the center of this, does that mean this created the thing in the center? Does that mean it's contingent upon the thing in or the things around it? I don't know. It just exists as this configuration.
No, because they're
Otherwise,
not
it'd be a different
efficient.
configuration. What?
They're not efficient. The fact that you held it up, that's the important
Right.
thing, the efficient
I'm
quality.
saying if this were the array of moments, right? It's in floating in the whatever.
Ether.
Yeah, imagine this is something not contingent. That's what I'm saying. Imagine this is self-existent.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not holding it. Imagine I'm not holding it. That's the first step. Uh, it's weird to say that.
You should go on the Science Channel and open up a comedy shop.
It's weird. It's weird to say that this creates the atom in the center of it. It's not quite a fair description of the relationship. It's if the atoms weren't in the center of this, then this would be different. It's just like tautologically true that it's how it is, and it's self-existent, and the things are where they are, and they never change.
Okay.
Right. So I don't concede that there's Yahweh, certainly, and I don't think I concede that there's something that I would call a God. You can call it God if you want, but I've only ascribed the property of self-existent and not like.
How about creator?
That's what I just got done talking about. I don't think that's a fair description of the relationship that the array of moments describes. If it's the array of moments is self-existent, did it create the moments? I don't know. It could just exist.
Are you purposeful?
So now you're talking about something that exists within the array of moments, not the array of moments itself. And I will already admit that I am a contingent being that passes from one moment to the next in the array.
The values.
I don't understand. I do understand. So this is how you. Okay, right. So I think right now you're basically admitting that my argument was sound enough to show that we don't need a God from that principle. Because what you're doing is you're trying to get from I guess the intentionality and like a moral argument that necessitates the existence of Yahweh, right? And you wouldn't have to do that if my argument wasn't good enough.
No, it doesn't have to be. It's not a moral argument. It's just the fact that you say that there's no intention.
But no, so hold on.
Right.
Whether I named it wrong or not, do you agree with what I just said? The main thesis of what I said? Like, if my argument wasn't good enough.
I'm not dodging anything, Mark. Nothing at all, okay?
So why are you shifting gears then? Because if my argument wasn't good enough to show that God isn't necessary.
Because you're conceding the fact that there's a self-existent being out, and I'm just trying to push you to be consistent.
Okay. All right. So starting from so essentially, the whole point of my thesis, the first 54 minutes of this, was that the fact that the universe appears to be changing from our perspective is not enough for us to conclude that God exists. Now, you're going to add on other things.
Yeah, because we don't believe in a law of non-contradiction.
So you're going to add on things like intentionality and valuing and morality and stuff, which is fine. You can have those arguments, but essentially, by doing that, you're showing that my argument was good enough.
Though you've already conceded that, remember?
Yeah, I mean,
it's the problem. I'm trying to flesh it out. You're the one who's running.
Okay.
I'm trying to do backpedal here.
I want to talk this out with you. I'm just trying to.
Can you tell me what's on your forefinger?
Oh, this is a piece of plastic. I'm just messing with, man. I'm just fidgeting.
Maybe you're some kind of disability or something.
I don't know, man. I'm just messing around. Anyway, so we have 6 minutes left. Let's talk about how valuing doesn't imply anything about the nature of cosmology.
Okay, so we go through the same thing over and over. I mean,
okay,
the fact that there is value necessarily points to the idea of efficiency or teleology or
so that means
something is important.
That means you're saying that valuing, which I'm just gonna whenever I talk about this, I'm gonna say valuing is like a property, like the noun valuing, right?
Okay,
it's like a property that I have. I have valuing.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying valuing the property can't be an emergent property of physical systems.
Well, I'm saying it can't be accidental or it can't be intentional.
We're saying the same thing, right? Okay, that's kind of the same, different phrasing of the same idea. Do you agree with that? Like I say, arising from physical systems could just be accidental, right?
Well, in physical systems, you're talking about unintentionality.
Yes, I mean, I think when you said accidental, you're also talking about unintentionality, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So for this purpose, okay, we agree. You're saying that it can't be unintentional. It can't be the product of physical systems. It couldn't have happened accidentally. How do you know that?
Because unintentionality cannot intend intentionality into existence, which
Okay.
is the thing over and
So
over.
when okay, I need right now. Otherwise, this few minutes will go to waste. When you say intend, what's the middle word mean? Give me a synonym for that word as you're using it.
Intend,
Unintentionality cannot intend intentionality. That word intend, can you put a
okay,
synonym in
value.
there?
That which is the negation of value cannot value
Okay.
value.
Okay,
That's
so
the whole
that's
thing.
so
The negation of something can't do anything. It's like something from nothing.
so here's an analogy. Unflying things cannot fly things into existence. Or cannot fly things into flight, sorry.
Unflying things cannot fly things into flight. No, because there's intentionality is in that whole scenario.
Okay, but that's just by saying that, that's special pleading because I'm making an analogy to another emergent property. And if you're going to
The emergent
this
property you're talking about is valued into existence. You understand that?
the emergent property I'm talking about, we both agree exists. And
And it's efficient by nature. We make airplanes, right?
we are efficient, but you claim to know that that efficiency, that valuing property we have, can't be an emergent property of just nature, of material causes or whatever. Why do you know that? Why
Because
do you
something cannot pass something to somebody else that it does not have in and of
That's
itself.
like saying birds can't be made of unflying components, or that
No,
eyes
that's not
can't
what
be
I'm
made
saying
of.
at all.
Why is
Because
it
the
100%?
birds are made by something that
No,
creates
no, no, no,
them to
no. It's
fly.
not. Like I should have said composed of, right? Like whether or not a bird was designed, whether or not it is composed of individual pieces that cannot fly, right? So it's like you saying a flying bird cannot be composed of unflying components. Why? Why are you saying that?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
How is that not what you're saying?
I am saying that unintentionality, which is completely different to talk about material,
Uh-huh.
physical material that you put together to do some function, is
Uh-huh.
different than intentionality is not something that it's like a stick. Intentionality is not that it's valuing, it's something that is personal. By
You're
definition,
asserting.
personhood is not physical.
Okay, but wait. So again, you're confusing your own terms because in sessions past you said a bacterium has intentionality, but a bacterium doesn't have personhood, does it? Or does it? I don't know. Surprise me.
I know that it moves toward
Okay,
survival. I
fine.
can't speak
Okay.
definitively about
I mean,
that, but I
we'll
can
agree
say
that it values. That's fine. But are we talking about like so when you say personhood, I jump to something that's like sentient, like a thinking being, right? Like you and me. A
yeah.
bacterium is not sentient. It's not a thinking being. It can be a reacting or a valuing being, but I don't think it's a person. Would you agree with that?
I would not say it's person in a biblical sense,
Okay.
no. Because
Is a person
dogs are persons too. They have personhood, but not on the same level as humans.
so is a bacterium a person in any sense to you then?
That it values something, it seems to be that it does because it seeks
Okay.
survival.
Well then let's just stick with value for now. We can get to more complicated beings later, right? That's fine. Like we can if we address the simple stuff, it can build us a foundation to get to complicated stuff. So if you want so I make the claim that we don't know it's impossible that valuing in the sense of a bacterium is an emergent property of the constituent components of the bacterium. You know that that's not true. Demonstrate.
Okay. We know that we have this principle called the law of identity.
Okay, so I'm
Something
going to
is not what it is, and it's opposite, and that's what you're trying
okay.
to define it as.
So then
We know
a
that
lightning
absolutely. We
bolt
know anything.
cannot be made of non-lightning. Is that true?
No. We're
Why is that
talking
not
about
true?
intentionality.
Why is so that means you want to treat intentionality different than we're going to treat this example.
That's right, because it's not corporeal.
That's
It's
called
not
special
material.
pleading. But wait, you're assuming that it's not corporeal. Because under my hypothesis, it could be corporeal, right? So if you're going to say we have to
Okay,
treat
if
it
it's
differently,
merely corporeal, then why do you have such a moral insensibility
that's
against people
we
who do something
that's another
wrong?
question. It's another question we can talk about, right? But whether or not my views on morality are consistent or irrational or whatever doesn't
That's the whole
change.
point. Sure it
It's
does.
not the whole point. That's a different subject. Because I could be irrational, but I could still be right about this thing. Isn't that possible?
But no, because
What do you mean
inconsistency
no?
is a sign of a failed argument.
What is?
You're not consistent.
What's
Inconsistency
the
is a
sign?
sign of a failed argument or a failed worldview.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's the sign of two failed
This
arguments.
whole hour you've been inconsistent. I've been as consistent as Methuselah.
I'm going to leave it to the audience to determine which of us has been the more inconsistent one. But
Okay.
me being inconsistent is a sign of a failed argument, maybe, but definitely not the sign of necessarily two failed arguments. Because if I have one argument that value can be an emergent property of material components, and the second one that morality is consistent, then sure, I can be inconsistent on one, but that doesn't necessarily negate my argument for the other one.
Well, if they're necessarily linked, it shows it shows that there's
I
inconsistency.
think you just made that up, and you're trying to get out of defending your premise. I mean, show me somebody who said what you just said, and maybe I'll care. But you just made that up.
It's 7 o'clock, my friend, and I've got a lot of work that I've got to do.
Okay, really, really sincerely, I appreciate that you found the time to do this with me. It is fun talking to you.
No, I like talking to you a lot as well, Mark.
Okay.
You're very thoughtful, and actually, you're not trained in these areas, but you're very perceptive. In other words,
Thank you.
there's some people I talk to, and it's like I don't know if they mean to do it, if they just don't want to concede a point, or they really can't understand it. But as we talk about these things, and I'll explain them, you may say, well, I don't understand what that point is, and I'll explain it to you and think, oh, yeah, okay, I grant that. So you got a very sharp mind. You're a lot smarter than me. I'll give you that much.
Oh, well, that's very flattering. Thank you.
Oh, well, you're the one with the PhD.
That honestly,
I have a high school diploma, barely.
I could tell you from some of the colleagues I've seen, it doesn't really mean that much. Be careful with it.
I'll grant that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anyway, yeah, get back to work. Thank you very much again, and I'll talk to you on Facebook.
Okay. All right, Mark. Blessings to you. We'll see you.
Okay. See you around.